Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and today we're going to check out this really sweet Land Cruiser. Let's take a look. So many of you have seen in the shop I've had Land Rovers, Range Rovers, different types of those vehicles, and I've always said those are my favorite. I would take those on a safari or out in Australia into the outback. And they wouldn't be as reliable though, but they are my favorite vehicles as far as off-road vehicles. For reliability, you definitely would want to take one of these. This one has a little over 300,000 miles on it. It's still going strong. It has a couple small mods, as you can see, and in the engine as well. We're going to take a look at why it's here, and we'll take a look around the vehicle like we always do. Let's start in the engine bay. Here we have a 4.5 liter inline 6, but this customer at some point in the past has added the TRD supercharger, which brings the power up pretty significantly. It runs perfectly. It has no real issues or anything. He's just wanted to check for a few leaks here or there. We did find a small vacuum leak here is going on with this. We'll have to get that repaired. But the customer mentioned that when he first starts it cold in the morning, there's a loud squealing like a belt. We have tried to start it multiple times. It does not make a noise. And until it makes the noise, we really don't have anywhere to go with it. But we'll try a few more times and see if we can get it to do it. But like I mentioned, there really wasn't a whole lot wrong with the engine. It's amazing with as many miles as it has on it, over 300,000. This thing is still going strong. Probably wouldn't get that amount of miles out of a Land Rover Discovery 2. Maybe it's possible, but very unlikely without having to pull the motor or pull the transmission or do some major work to it. Let's go ahead and take a look around the vehicle. So as you can see, it has an ARB bumper, it has a nice LED driving light, and it has a winch that says Slee Off-Road. I'm not familiar with all these brands and companies. I don't get much into heavy accessorizing on off-road vehicles. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of Slee Off-Road. This is the older style Land Cruiser. This isn't like the LX470 that Tyler had and some of the newer ones, 03, 04. This is the older body style. And to me, I think these look a little better. It does have some oxidization on the hood, which on this many miles, and you use this thing off-road and you beat it up a little bit, it's really not a problem. Nothing to worry about, really. It has some 35 by 12.5 R17 BF Goodrich mud terrains on it, KM2, and it's got some aftermarket wheels. It has Metal Tech 4x4 rock sliders on it. That's what the sticker says there, Metal Tech. That's for when you come down off of a ledge or something and it doesn't crush your body. Not your physical body, but the car body. It also has some rocker panel sliders in the back. The body itself is in pretty decent shape on this side. It has a ladder here so you can get up on top and load things onto your luggage rack on top. You can tell that this one is set up for some serious trail cruising. It's meant to get a little rough with it. You can also see that this bumper setup is also by Slee. I've seen a lot of these driving around Wichita that are hopped up and have all kind of fancy accessories on it, and you can tell they've never even had it off-road. Everything is sparkling perfect, all the bolts are perfect. All they do is go cruising around the mall. This one has been off-road. This one has been used for what it was meant for, and the money that was dumped into this to make it off-road capable, or more off-road capable, has been used for that purpose, and I really applaud that. We didn't see any damage on the back. We'll move around to the side here. There's our rock sliders, and they have a few nicks and scratches, which is great. That means it's been used. You can see where tree branches have gone along the body and put streaks in the paint. That is not a negative in my world. That's a positive. That means you've been out in the bush, you've been out having fun, not cruising the mall parking lot. It has a safari snorkel here, so you can take it in some higher water levels and not suck in water into your engine. The antenna is missing. because that probably gets in the way when you're on the trail and the tree branches hit it, and really don't want no trouble with that. Let's go ahead and take a look in the interior and let Mrs. Wizard check it out.
So welcome to the interior, ladies and gents. You can tell there it does indeed have 306,000 miles on it. Check engine light is on just because the engine's not running. But in reality, for 306,000 miles, look at this. It's in really, really good shape. Now we can tell that it has been used. The steering wheel's got a few marks where they've been grabbing a hold of it. Got a little bit of sun damage, just like that SL500 that I used to have did. Over here on the door, there was a little bit of an issue that the Wizard was needing to address, and that is the motor. Seems like it might be getting a little old, having a little trouble going up and down. So that is one of the things that does need to be addressed. As we slide over and look at the rest of the dash, we can see why that antenna out there was not needed, is because he has added a new stereo system and he has Bluetooth, so he doesn't care if there's an antenna or not. Otherwise, we can tell he's got, personal items in here. Nothing too personal, I mean just a cup, but you can tell he has been using this space. If we look here at the center console, this is a new addition. This is a 12-volt cooler. So when he's out and about and he needs to, get a quick drink that's chilled, there we go. And as we look over here, the seat is in good shape, the door panels are in good shape, and if we slide up to our headliner, nothing sagging, no marks in here, because obviously we're not getting tree branches raking the inside of our interior, at least we better not be. And our back seat is looking good as well. It looks like there is a sunshade that he uses to keep that dash looking great. One thing, here is the driver's seat, and as much as this has been used, this little bit right here is the only wear and tear that's majorly wrong on this seat. Everything else is looking great. And you know what? If you really wanted to get that repaired, one thing we have found that we have used is this stuff called Mastoplast. Weird name, but does a really good job. Just a sticker, can match most seat colors, and does a great job covering up and keeping the seat from breaking up even more. So let's go take a peek underneath.
So it's a little bit more difficult to get one of these in the air, especially when they're lifted. One of the things to keep an eye on is to make sure that you find a spot that's not going to, once you lift it, it's going to push it off, push the arms off. I use the purchase for the trailing arms and the forward arms for the axles, and it works just fine. We'll go ahead and start up here. We'll look for any leaks at the condenser and radiator and the cooler. I don't see anything leaking, which looks good. The steering stabilizer is not blown out, it looks good. There is a little bit of seepage coming from probably a line there, but it's not serious. I'll let him know about it. We'll see what he wants to do. The differential he did have a concern about, and we drained some fluid and it's black, like really bad. We're going to change the fluid out and see if that improves anything. If not, he will have to take it to an axle shop that rebuilds differentials. We could do that here, but the shops that do only differentials, they can do it way cheaper, a lot cheaper than I can do it. It doesn't make sense for me to do it. So you can see it has Old Man Emu Springs. There's the OME number on there. And our pivot balls right here, where it pivots, you can see there's a little bit of seepage, which is just normal. It's when they start dripping, it's getting all over the tires. That's when it needs to come apart. With the age on it and the way it's used, I would just leave it alone for now. The other side is the same. It's not horrible yet, but when it gets to that point, it's going to have to come all apart and have new seals put on it. The Land Rover Discoveries are very similar. The Discovery 1 especially, they have the same style of a setup. And we'll move on back here. He's concerned about an oil leak and the lower oil pan, not the aluminum one that's up above, but this little stamped steel one is leaking around the gasket. That'll be an easy job. We'll get that removed. It's just silicone. Even at the factory, they just use silicone. In fact, I looked up the gasket. I was going to order the part from Pack, and it said, here's your gasket. It's a tube of silicone. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's what we use then. Looking through this hole and tell that our transmission is nice and dry. The torque converter is dry. No leaks there. You can see part of our lift kit were these blocks to lower the sway bar. One thing that concerns me is this brake line is pretty tight. I will let the customer know about that. We'll see what we want to do. Let's say, well, putting it on the lift caused that. But if you're out in the sticks, in the middle of nowhere, and you have some articulation going on, the same thing is going to happen. So we may need to make some adjustments to keep that from being so tight. Oil pan is dry on the transmission. Shaft is good. There's a double cardan joint. Those rarely ever get greased, but they will get greased here. As you can see, there's 3 greased zerks, one for each U-joint and one for the cardan joint in the middle. This up here is not a leak. That is underbody coating. That's actually from the factory, so we'll just leave that be. Or maybe it was aftermarket, I don't know. Here's our transfer case. Also, it is not leaking. We checked it, it's nice and full and it's clean fluid. There's our rear drive shaft, and U-joints look good. Everything looks good there. There's minor seepage coming from the pinion seal, but it's not enough to warrant a tear down or pulling it all apart yet. It's a pretty beefy rear axle. Brakes are pretty good. They probably got about half their life left. Nothing loose there. OME springs again. Here's a vent tube. And our brake line here it's kind of tight. It's not as bad as the front, but it's a little tight. We can probably make some adjustments and it'll take care of that. Our shocks look fairly new. Those are also Old Man Emu. Brakes again. Halfway gone, but they still got a lot of life left. Our spare tire is missing. It is now on the back, mounted on the rear bumper area.
It's absolutely astonishing. There's only surface rust on this.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of rust as far as the body being rusted through or anything. So can't complain about that at all. One thing to keep in mind when you're going to lift your vehicle, just like I showed you, is something that's always overlooked is your brake lines, the flexible hoses that go down to the axle. They get stretched to the limit. They don't look stretched when it's sitting with the weight of the car down, but as you see, when we get some articulation or put it on the lift, all of a sudden it's pulled tight. That's something you definitely want to keep in mind when you do a lift kit. Let's get this thing on the ground. So there's a few things we need to take a look at on this vehicle. It's not going to be a horrendous bill. It's not going to be mega expensive. And it doesn't always have to be. Just because your car comes in the shop doesn't mean it's always going to be $5,000 or some expensive bill. It could be $500 or something simple. We'll get his oil pan resealed. We'll get his window regulator fixed. We'll take a look at some adjustments on those brake lines and just give it a good once over. And then we'll see where we're going to go with that front differential. If it's could be serviced and used for a while longer, that'd be fine. If not, he'll have to take it, like I said, to an axle shop. Toyotas are one of the most long-lived vehicles on the road. They are very, very reliable. But when any vehicle gets to 300,000 miles, you got to quit thinking that, oh, it's a Toyota, it'll go forever. No, it's getting long in the tooth. If this car were a human, it's getting into its 70s. I mean, it's still got some life left in it. It's still usable. I doubt it's going to make it to 550,000 miles, though. There's going to be a point where this vehicle is no longer worth fixing. It's not there yet. It's still a ways off. It's still going strong. It's really a testament to Toyota reliability and very, very good build quality. Parts are still very available on these Land Cruisers because they're all over the world. You can go to South Africa, you can go to Australia, so there's going to be parts all over the world. Even if here in America they said we don't stock parts for that anymore, I guarantee you they will in South Africa. You may have to order them overseas and take a little bit longer to get them, but you will be able to get them for a long time. It's a very similar situation to Bentley and Rolls-Royce. There's many times I have to go through Flying Spares and get parts from them, and it can take a few days to get the parts here, sometimes a week. It just depends on the availability. But you're not going to go to your local parts store and say, I need an alternator for an '89 Rolls-Royce. They're going to be like, what? So there's a reason why those types of venues exist, to get parts. Even though they're overseas, that's really the only option. That could be an option here if it becomes an issue in the States to get parts. When you get into the newer models of these, they start to get the V8, the 4.7 V8. I personally like the inline six, a lot of low-end torque at low RPMs to really lug and pull through some of the cliffs or rocks or mud or different things that you're doing, logs, whatever you're creeping and crawling over. I personally would like the inline six. And although the supercharger is really cool, I probably wouldn't go with the supercharger because it's a lot less complex, a lot less things to go wrong. I would keep it simple, and you're not going to be going 70 miles an hour on the trail. It's more like 7 miles an hour, so I would keep it stock if it was mine. There are a few spots in Kansas to go off-roading. Kansas Rocks, I think, is the name of the place, and there's some places here or there, but there's not a whole lot. Kansas is pretty flat. A lot of the miles that are racked up on this vehicle very likely are traveling to Colorado or Oklahoma. Actually, at Grand Lake, there's a really huge off-road area. It would be 4 hours away, and you can get some serious world-class off-roading there near the dam at Grand Lake. We've done Colorado ourselves when we've had a Jeep, and it was really fun up in the mountains, really enjoyable. So we'll get going on this one, we'll get it fixed up and get it out the door, but while it was here, I know you guys love these old Land Cruisers, so we definitely let you guys take a look at it. If you're curious what kind of tools we use to work on these, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, I really recommend you do that now because there are more boat videos, Ferrari videos, and the shop is staying full all the time. I mean slam full all the time. So there's always stuff to film. Thanks for watching.